Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Nishan Pedgopu, Chief Operating Officer at BITS Technology Enabling Center, BITS Pilani. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our innovation series that is titled Refining Ideas and Gaining Traction, Building an MVP. Hope you all can hear me properly. If there is any issue, kindly let us know. Is everything fine? Is my voice audible to everyone?
Dr. Kaustub and Dr. Shrikant.
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. All right, so just to give you a gist, the BITS Technology Enabling Center is committed to fostering innovation, supporting entrepreneurs, and bridging the gap between academia and industry. Our innovation series is designed to provide insights from experts who have successfully navigated the journey from ideation to market, sharing their experiences and practical advice to help you refine your ideas and bring them into future. So with this, let me call upon Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, who is the TTO of BITS Pilani and of course the co-coordinator of BITS-TEC, to give a couple of words and kickstart this meeting. So over to you, Rajneesh.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in today's innovation series, which is a series that we continuously do to spur innovation in the region of Rajasthan and all across, irrespective of our states. So just to give you a brief about Technology Enabling Center, this is a center that has been supported with generous support from Department of Science and Technology from their division known as Technology Translation and Innovation Division. The mandate of this program is to bring different stakeholders on a common platform and discuss areas and support activities that can spur technology development and can also help translation of these technologies into different stakeholders. These are MSMEs, startups, and industries. Apart from that, we do a lot of activities with respect to intellectual property protection related exercises where we do train people, institutions, their professionals in the best practices of innovation, intellectual property management, and technology commercialization. In addition to that, we do a lot of policy workshops where we bring in different stakeholders in different scope of works depending on the gaps which are existing in those areas. And these could be faculty members, innovators, industries, policymakers. They come on a common platform and they discuss the gaps and the challenges. And as a BITS-TEC Center, we try and come out with innovation white papers that we share with DST to help them create policy matters around those areas that can bring about ease of doing business in MSMEs, industries, and startup, along with creating an industry-academia partnership. With this, I hand over it to Nishant to initiate the workshop. Thank you, Nishant.
Thank you, Rajneesh, for those inspirational words. Moving on, just to give you an understanding of today's session and the topics which we'll be covering, the session is focused on one of the most critical stages in the entrepreneurial journey. An MVP or minimal viable product is the simplest version of a product that allows you to gather maximum validated learning about customers with the least effort. It's a crucial step in the product development process, enabling you to test your assumptions, validate your business model, and make necessary adjustments before scaling up. Building an MVP requires a delicate balance between vision and practicality. Our speakers will delve into the strategies and methodologies for refining your ideas, developing a compelling value proposition, and creating an MVP that effectively addresses your target market's need. They will share their personal experiences, highlight common pitfalls, and other actionable advice to help you navigate this challenging yet exciting phase. This will be, of course, followed by a Q&A session where you can interact directly with the speakers. And of course, during the discussions, you can also drop in the chat if you have any further questions or some topic to discuss across. With this, let me introduce our first speaker, that is Dr. Kaustub Dhargalkar. He is the Dean of Business Design and Innovation at Welingkar Institute of Management. Dr. Dhargalkar is an accomplished innovator and business strategist with extensive experience in guiding startups and established companies alike. His expertise in business design and innovation will provide invaluable insights into the strategic aspects of building a successful MVP. He is the author of It's Logical, Innovating Profitable Business Models, and has been recognized as one of the top global innovators. Dr. Dhargalkar has mentored over 150 startups and consults for numerous large corporations. So without further ado, let's begin our innovation series session with our first speaker. So over to you, Dr. Dhargalkar. Floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Nishant. Thank you, Rajneesh and team. The activities that you guys are doing are really exhaustive. I mean, spreads across the entire canvas that an innovator or startup would need to do. Thank you very much, respected Dr. Shrikant. Nice to be on a panel with you.
Same here, sir.
So let's begin. I can see the attendees, and I was told that attendees are a mix of startups, students, faculty members, right? Correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Correct. All right. So I'm going to talk about kind of idea validation, and I'm not going to keep it theoretical. I'm going to narrate some of my personal experiences with startups, my own startups, as well as working with mentoring startups, etc. And then we will draw some lessons out of it, what should have been done, and what could have been done, what was done well, what was not done well, etc. And from there, we will figure out some basic principles of idea validation. So I'm not going to do something like a textbook session, and honestly, I would like all of you to talk. Let us discuss rather than have a one-way monologue. So these are the rules of engagement for the session. Please follow them carefully. Feel free to counter me at any point in time. Let's not keep a Q&A at the end. If you have some comments or questions, you can interrupt me and speak. Can they speak? Can they get unmuted and speak? Or is it like
Yes,
a
they
webinar
can.
mode?
Yes, sir, they can.
Great. So that's fantastic. Then
But
we
in
will
case anyone wants to type on the chat box, please do share your questions in advance so that we can put them on the open.
Yeah. All right. So fine. So you can also unmute yourself and ask a question or pose a comment or whatever it is. All right. So these are my rules. Follow them strictly, please. All right. Now tell me, look, I mean, you're seeing me talking. There is my picture there. Tell me what may be some of the products that would be desired by me. You can unmute and tell me, or you can type in the chat window. Yeah. Nothing, you don't want to sell anything to me? Iraj saying innovation or ideas. Okay, let me open the chat. Yeah, go ahead. Nice pair of spectacles. All right.
Yes.
Hair growing serum. All right. Anything else? Please go ahead. Let's, rather than typing in the chat, maybe you can unmute and speak. That'll be more like having a conversation. Anything else?
Football subscription.
Football subscription. Okay. FC Barcelona. All right. What else? Look at my head. Only one person has targeted my head. Hair growing serum. All right. Nothing else? I don't seem to be an attractive customer.
Smart glasses.
Smart glasses. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Many a time now this sweat-proof T-shirt. All right. So you guys have given some ideas. I thought you will focus on my bald pate and tell me what. Okay, focus on my bald pate and what do you think I would like to have? Wig. Okay. All right. So two ideas for my balding. A beautiful smile. Okay, I need a beautiful smile. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? One or two more? Hats. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to kind of talk about what I would want. All right. I'm going to focus on my balding head or already balded head. When I ask that question, most people give me these answers, hair growth, some hair growth lotion or some wig or a hat or something like that. Or somebody says a subscription to maybe one of those, a rich feel kind of laser transplant, hair transplant treatment or something like that. And now these are things that people suggest when they look at my balding pate. And this is the immediate thing that comes to their mind. But if you really talk to me, if any of those people would care to sit down and talk with me, they would probably realize that in a week I shave my head maybe alternate day or every 2 to 3 days. So maybe 2 to 3 times a week I have to shave my head. All right. Uh, Now each time that I shave my head, it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to shave my head clean. And in a week, that amounts to at least about 30 odd minutes, 30 to 40 minutes just shaving my head. And believe me, it's a pain to shave the head. So I would rather have you invent some cream which actually stops hair growth, which I can apply and it can stop hair growth, and that pain of shaving my head goes away. Anybody willing to do that? All right. Now, now looking at me, those people who focused on my head gave me solutions to either grow my head, grow my hair, or to kind of put a hat and prevent others from seeing that. Now, that's an assumption on which you thought that these products I would be able to sell to this guy. But if you really ask that person, the problem is completely different. And that's where the concept of product market fit comes in. A lot of people will try to sell me a wig and a hair growth lotion and a laser treatment kind of stuff. But if you really ask me, that's not what I want. I want something completely different. And many a time, startups or large companies make that mistake of assuming something that the customer wants and focusing all their attention or creating products and services for that purpose rather than going to the customer, doing some insight mining or in-depth research, user research, and figuring out what that customer really wants. And that's where that's the first step for validation, right? That's where validation begins. And obviously, the purpose of idea validation is to achieve good product market fit. All right. Now, relentless focus on the customer gives you product market fit. That's one point that I'm making here. And now, having made this point, let me take up a couple of examples where something that we created did not quite run in the market, and what were the reasons for those. This is something way back in 2015 or so. Uh, so in 2015, we had a design innovation kind of a marathon, a hackathon for almost 6 days at the Welingkar Institute of Management campus in collaboration with MIT Boston. It was a 6-day hackathon. I think it was the longest that time in India, 6 days that was run by MIT in collaboration with Wellinkers. And there were about 11 different tracks in which about almost 384 participants had gotten involved. 11 different tracks were for 11 different technology areas, focus areas. Some were somewhere, one was about fintech, one was about education, one was about cameras can be used in interesting manner, one was about interesting interfaces that can be created, etc., etc., etc. And I was leading one track called Fab Lab, that is fabrication, physical products, innovation of physical products, all right. And on day one, the whole format, what we had done was on day one, let us take these participants out of those 384 distributed across 11 tracks. We had about 33 or 34 participants in that Fab Lab track. We had taken these kids, not really kids, but they were startups, they were students, there were some people from corporates as well in those tracks. We had taken them on an kind of insight expedition, in the sense that we had taken them in the field, on the streets of Mumbai, to find issues or problems that people face. And then the idea was that we will all come back and then generate ideas, and over the next say 4 days we will actually create some physical products to solve those problems, a prototype to be created, and maybe a proof of concept if lucky to reach that stage. By the evening, after this whole visit in the market and around on the streets of Mumbai, we had gotten friendly with all those participants. And I remember I was sitting with a group of about 5 or 6 people, having a coffee at a CCD, some local CCD somewhere in the region of Matunga in Mumbai. And one of those participants suddenly put his hand on my head and said, asked me a question. Since when did you start losing your hair? I said, maybe 15, 20 years back and stuff like that. And then he thought for a bit, and actually, I still remember on a tissue on the table, a paper napkin on the table, he quickly created one small sketch with a hairbrush implanted with a high resolution camera, and said, would this, if you were able to measure your hair loss 15, 20 years back, whenever it started, the rate of losing hair, would that have been an interesting product for you? And I said, maybe, yeah, 15, 20 years back, yes, not today, but back then, maybe I would have been interested in the fact that knowing that I'm losing hair. So on the basis of that that seed of an idea, over the next 4 days, we actually prototyped this hairbrush. It's an actual picture wherein the high resolution camera was embedded in it. And every time you combed your hair, the camera would scan your scalp and identify the density of hair follicles per square inch. All right. And it would give out this kind of a reading. A companion Android app was also created in a crude manner. And it took them about 4 days to create. And on the 5th day, there was an exhibition, or rather the 6th day, there was an exhibition of all the products that were created for everybody to see. And this was like a big hit across the campus. But before the day of the exhibition, I just raised a question. Yeah, we have created an interesting product, but finally the validation is when there is a customer who's willing to buy it. So we made a few phone calls to people like me, follically challenged people like me. And, we explained this is what we have been doing and this is what we've created, sent them some pictures of some pictures of the prototype on WhatsApp or something like that. And everybody all of them, 4 or 5 people we connected with, very excited and said, yes, we will buy it. And then obviously one question was, how much would it cost? And we had done a rough costing exercise in those 3-4 days or so that we had created the prototype. The whole thing had cost us something like 3,750 to 3,800 rupees. And when we actually did some detailed costing, and it came to about, if we manufacture it at scale, the cost would be about 2,000 to 2,100 rupees. And as a thumb rule in manufacturing, if the cost of manufacturing is say X, I think the selling price should be about 6X is a general thumb rule that I've always followed in my entrepreneurial career, because I have had some manufacturing ventures as well earlier. So 6x is generally the figure. So about 2,100 into 6 comes to about 13,200 rupees. And we said that a product or any number which has 13 in it, people are unwilling to buy it. So we said either it should be costed between 12 and 13,000 or 14,000 and above. And all these 5 people or 6 people that we had connected with, who had found the product very interesting, the moment we told them the price, 14,000 or 12,500 or something like that, and they said, oh, then it's very expensive. I don't think we'll buy it. Now, this is a classic case of a product picking up a need, solving the need, so to say, but not getting traction in the market. Now, what should be done is a question, right? Any responses from your side? If you were in this situation, what would you do? Yeah, if you were in this situation, what would you do? Is it an interesting product worth taking forward or no? Conducting customer interviews, okay? All right. What else is possible here? How would you take this idea forward or give it up? Would you give it up? Yes or no? Price is high, so rework on reducing price. Initially reduce price to gain customer traction, customer needs. All right. Now, one basic principle that I have always followed in my entrepreneurial career and when I mentor students is that the moment you start playing the pricing game, your competitor also starts playing the pricing game, and in the next 2 or 3 years, that whole industry just collapses because everybody is cutting each other on price, and the whole segment doesn't remain profitable. So one really needs to be creative to be able to not cut the price, but still be able to sell it. Now we didn't do further anything about this, but the ideas that we came up with at that time were who would be the target customers? Okay, people like me. If I'm not going to willing to buy it, what is the ecosystem in which people like me function? People who are losing hair at an early stage in their life are worried about it, and they probably want to get treatment, get treated for it. Who gives the treatment? That's where these rich fields of the world and the Godrej and the L'Oreals of the world come in. Now, the idea that we came up at that time was maybe the customer, the user is unwilling to pay the price, but these other folks who are wanting to give treatment to this consumer, that is the rich field of the world, Dr. Batra's labs and Godrej and L'Oreal and all those guys who create hair treatment stuff, they want their customer base to increase. So would they be our customers rather than the actual end user, that is people like me, was the idea that we came up with. Of course, we didn't take it forward, that's another thing. But point that I'm trying to make is when the direct user is not willing to buy it, explore the ecosystem around that user and see whether you can create a win-win situation. Now, through this kind of a model, what we thought at that time was, even in fact, we had talks with some people, and then it was our mistake that we didn't follow it up. That we were willing to offer this to be sold through a Richfield or a Dr. Batra's lab or stuff like that, who give hair treatment, whereby they would buy our product and they would further give it either at a subscription to the actual user to be used, or completely free of cost to the actual user, and capture that data from there and then target those people for their treatments. Now, this kind of a model possibly would have worked. We didn't explore it. That's our mistake. So, point that I'm trying to make is do not get married to the first product or first idea that you create. And any successful company, before its launch, goes through at least 10 to 15 iterations. And these iterations have to be done keeping the ecosystem of the end user in mind. Connect with all those stakeholders in that system to find out where you can create a win-win situation. Remember that. This model was a win-win situation because these companies would get their prospective customers and the end user would get it at practically negligible cost to use it. Extremely beneficial, and we would also get that business. So that's one thing that would possibly have been done. Now, let me go with something else. This is something that we didn't take it forward, our problem. Now I will tell you about something that I took forward and it flopped in the market. This is around 2010. Pharmaceutical companies, one or two pharmaceutical companies were in touch with me, and they want to know which doctor is prescribing their medicines. That's something that a pharmaceutical company wants to know at all times, right? And the method of finding that out is a representative goes to a doctor, pitches about various drugs, medicines, etc., and in the vicinity visits the various chemists or medical stores in the vicinity to find out how much of that particular medicine which he has promoted to the doctor is being prescribed, is being bought, or is being sold through prescriptions from that particular doctor. So that's the way normally it used to happen at that time. A very kind of tedious and a very unreliable kind of a mechanism. Everybody got the situation? The problem statement? Understood? Hello? Are we clear?
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay. Now, this is something that we wanted to solve. And as a constantly trying to do something in the startup space, some products, etc., I found this a very interesting problem to solve. And now also when we did that study at that time with doctors, how they would operate. Doctors, these pharmaceutical companies want to please their doctors. And at that time, they used to give fancy gifts to these doctors, you know, gold chains and fancy holidays, overseas holidays, and the guise of attending some conferences here and there, etc. I think about 5 years back, there has been a cap on that, but I'm talking about 2010. At that time, the iPad had just launched. The first version of the iPad was just launched. And I found that that would be a gift that would be very attractive for a doctor. And then to be able to capitalize on a digital tab, we created a mechanism where a cloud-based platform, you give the tab to a doctor as a gift, free, under the condition that you start writing prescriptions on the tab, and it will get captured on the cloud. So the doctor's records will be captured on the cloud, and we will connect it with the local chemist shops or medical stores where the prescription, an e-prescription will automatically go to that chemist shop and the patient can go and buy it from there. Now, with this mechanism, we could actually track which doctor is writing how much of the drugs for which companies. Everybody clear with the solution? Yeah, are we clear about the solution that we had created? This is about 2010, right? Yes or no? To digitally capture digitally, right?
Yes, yes.
I personally thought, what a fantastic solution, XYZ. And we thought, yeah, we are going to be the next, okay, the unicorn was not a word at that time, but we were really looking for a big kind of a company buying us out. And finally, when we launched it, we waited for about 6 months, nothing happening, not at all. Doctors took the iPad, but nothing was being prescribed using the iPad. Something was going wrong. Any guesses what was going wrong? Any guesses?
Training the doctors to use your interface for prescription.
Training, okay. I mean, it's writing. Instead of writing on paper, it's just writing on the tab, all right? Change management, all right? Inconvenient. Took the iPad home for personal use. Yeah, they were free to take the iPad home for personal use. As long as they carried it to their clinic, we were fine. One mistake that we did was we never explored, we never saw or never spoke to the doctors before creating this whole thing. We just observed their behavior and made this whole thing. Doctors, maybe even talking to doctors, this issue we may not have been able to identify this issue. Tell me, back then or even now, how many doctors actually give you a receipt for the consultation charges? Except when you go to a large hospital. Private practice? Hello? Do they? All right. Now, when you are digitizing the record back in 2010, they don't want it digitized because they don't want to leave a trail of their earnings, because from these prescriptions, one can easily make up how many patients does the doctor see and what would possibly be the earnings. And with the digital trail, if this comes into the hands of maybe an income tax department, some person, then the whole thing doesn't run forward, right? Now, with that inhibition, these guys never used it. Now, I personally spent a lot of time and money and effort in creating this whole thing, and it just bombed. End of the story. Lost money, lost time, almost 2 years went in this whole exercise, nothing coming out of it. Classic case of bad product market fit, not a win-win situation, not taking into account the ecosystem in which we are trying to push a product. We look at it from one perspective and we think this is going to run. Doesn't happen like that. All right. Any comments from your side? I have spoken for about almost half an hour. Any comments from your side with these two examples before I move to something that has succeeded? And then we will draw some learning points from those things. Anybody? May not be a question, but comment. End user, talking to the end user is a must. Yes. You can unmute, yeah. All right. Customer feedback. Constantly keeping the customer in the loop. Sooner we take the pain of understanding the customer, lesser we can bleed. Yes, but the right prescriptions anyways, that failed. Well, Shweta Mishra is asking the right prescriptions anyway. Now, when prescription is written on paper, there is no digital trail, right? Once there is a digital trail, one can make 2 + 2 = 5. That's what they didn't want. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. Now, let me talk about minimum viable product. A little bit of a theoretical definition of MVP, as I think Mr. Nishant talked about this definition at the beginning. That version of a new product which allows the team to collect maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. Now, validated, I have put it in bold and large font. What does validation mean? Validation from a customer means not just he or she saying, yes, I will use the product. According to me, validated means willing to pay for it. Willing to pay for it is somebody who's not your brother, not your sister, not your mom, not your dad. Is an actual customer who's willing to pay for what you've created. All right. Now, let me take one more example of something that constant iteration finally led to this startup getting a kind of, a validated product and a scalable product. Now, this is one student of mine around the same time, 2014-15, second year MBA student. His uncle is from the agricultural community. In one of his, vacation time or something, he had gone to live on the farm along with his uncle's family. And he observed one very peculiar thing, that every night at about 2:30 early in the morning, his uncle would get up, go to the fields, and come back up after about 40 minutes or so. This boy found it very strange. What the hell is happening? So he asked, after observing this pattern for about 3 nights at a stretch, he asked his uncle, what's happening? And uncle said that for some godforsaken reason, the local municipal water supply comes at 2:45 a.m. in the night, and it takes about 20 minutes for the tanks to get filled up. So he has to go there at 2:45, switch the pump on, wait for 20 minutes. After the tanks are full, switch it off and come back. Total exercise, 15 minutes walk inside, half an hour waiting there, 15 minutes walk back. So almost an hour's exercise, hours sleep lost. Now, this fellow, being an engineer, he actually tampered around and created a very simple irrigation, this motor starter controller, along with a companion Android app, to be able to set the time, when to switch it on, when to switch it off, etc., etc., etc. And took him about 8-9 months to create this whole hardware and companion app and all that. And ready to launch somewhere around middle of 2015 or so. And obviously, being an MBA, he had done a lot of market analysis, etc., 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 and an excited kind of a startup boy. First year's projections were that he'll be able to sell about 1,200 pieces in the market. Second year projections were about 4,500 or 5,000 pieces that he'll be able to sell. Now, my question to you all is, back then, 15 or so, this was a new product? It was a new concept or not? Yes or no? Just say yes or no. New concept, yes or no? If you can't unmute, just you can type. Yes, all right. Okay. Well, in 2015, this was not a new concept. In fact, from 2006 onwards, even before smartphones had come into the market, this could be operated through a feature phone via an SMS, a GSM-enabled technology existed. And this actually, as a motor controller, remote motor controller, this guy was the 32nd in the market. How much? 32nd in the market. And there were some big players already in the market, like Jain Irrigation Limited and Finolex and some other large companies into the agricultural space. These guys were already there. But this guy, gung-ho, and obviously this motor controller was not widespread. So there was obviously a lot of latent potential there. So he said, yes, I will take it forward. Now, this is a product which is sold through, typical supply chain is a wholesaler, distributor, retailer, sub-retailer, and then a farmer. So he has to go through this entire distribution channel. So he went to a few distributors, about 5 distributors he went to, demonstrated his product. And the product was definitely better than what was existing in the market. So 100% it was better than anything that Jain Irrigation would dish out, or anything that Finolex would dish out, or any other competitor would dish out. So all the distributors, the wholesalers whom he met were extremely pleased, and they gave him very positive feedback. And then obviously this guy expected orders to come from them. So he kept following up with them. And over the next 20, 21 days or almost a month, he used to constantly keep on calling these people. And believe me, none of them, not a single wholesaler, received his call. They used to disconnect his calls. What would probably be the reason for that? market exists, but that distribution channel is unwilling to stock? What could be the reason? Product solves a problem, end user wants the product, facilitates, useful, but distributor also says, yes, it is better than competition. What you made is better than what already exists, but no price margin. Okay, anything else? Anything else? Yeah, think about it. Let me know. Now, these are classic dilemmas or questions that you will have to answer when you take your products to market. So better start thinking about it right now. Networking could be poor, percentage offered to distributors might be less, competitive products. All right. Now, let me tell you the reality. The reality was that these distributors already had connections with these other large manufacturers. Say, let's take Jain Irrigation Limited, for example. Jain Irrigation Limited also had a similar product, but along with this product, the distributor or the wholesaler used to sell 50 other products of Jain Irrigation Limited to the same customers or the same retailers. Now, though this controller was better than what was being dished out by the other guys, the distributor felt that if I stock this mobile motor starter of this Smart Vikas fellow, I will somehow create bad blood with Jain Irrigation Limited and other Israeli companies, etc. Who, say, for example, I might be able to sell maybe 15 lakhs worth of this motor controller every year, but I am doing business worth about 5 to 7 crores with a Jain Irrigation Limited, selling their not just their motor controllers, but their pipes, drip irrigation systems, X, Y, Z, all of that. Would a distributor kind of take a chance there for a better product and spoil his other business? Do you think that will happen? Hello? Do you think that will happen? So now, what is to be done in this kind of a situation? I'm sure a lot of you will face these issues when you take your products to the market. Product is very good. Customer is saying it is better than what exists in the competition, what exists from the competitors, but still these are kind of roadblocks that will come. Then what do? Diverse products should be launched to offer. Agreed, fine, but as a startup, do we have the wherewithal to go beyond one product? Yeah, genuine questions. Hello? Sell online to remove distributor. Farmer online 2014, 15, farmer buying online, difficult, right? Reach the customer directly. Now, reaching the customer directly requires a tremendous sales distribution force. Not really feasible for a startup. Agreed? Genuine issues? What do you feel, guys? All right. Now, what this guy did not give up. Kept on meeting farmers, kept on bringing more the user interface, simplifying the user interface, bringing it in different languages, vernacular languages, X, Y, Z. Yes, he used to go to these, gram sabhas, meet there, sit there, just understand customer issues, etc., farmer issues, etc. All these awareness campaigns, not really awareness campaigns, but actually understanding, meeting farmers and understanding what's happening. And he was in that ecosystem. And come 2016, in the 2016 budget, the government, the current government, reduced farm subsidies. They reduced farm subsidies. The total volume of farm subsidies was reduced. The logic was that from 2000, whenever they came to power, they were pushing for linking the Aadhaar card with the mobile phone and the bank account, if you remember. Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile kind of initiative was being pushed hard from between 2014 to 2016, right? Now, with that, what the government was saying that farmer subsidies will can be directly transferred into the farmer's account rather than it going through the state government, local government, municipality, etc., and then into the farmer's account, because there a lot of corruption happens in between. Barely 15 to 20% of the subsidies would reach the farmers. 80-85% would be sucked out in the system. So with this Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile initiative, the government was saying that whatever farm subsidies we give, we will ensure that they reach directly to the farmers, and hence the effectiveness of the subsidies will be a lot more. So we will be able to reduce the volume of subsidies. Proper thought, right? Now, this fellow, because he was roaming around and actually experimenting and talking to the end users, came to know about this whole thing, and then identified an issue that if a farmer has to be given a subsidy as much as he or she deserves, the government should also know what is the actual farming activity that that farmer undertakes. Farming activity, how can it be now quantified? How does the government come to know that which farmer deserves how much subsidy? Obviously, depending on the farming activity. Farming activities can be determined by the amount of water that the farmer uses, amount of electricity that the farmer uses, etc., etc., etc. So now this fellow created a cloud platform connected to his motor controller, which could actually capture the water flowing through it and the electricity consumed by whatever the motor pumps, etc., fixed by the farmers. Now, this data would actually help determine the farming activity and hence determine the how much subsidy does the farmer deserve, right? Now, once he created the cloud platform, he went to the local governments and showed that dashboard that this is what I can pick up. Now, this was like music to the ears of the local governments, because otherwise, to capture the water consumption and electricity consumption, this fellow, the government would have had to appoint hundreds of field inspectors going from field to field taking these readings. Now, when there is a human element for data collection for determining subsidies, there's obviously going to be corruption there in the system. So this guy actually eliminated that through this cloud thing. Now, what he did was he created this dashboard, went to the local governments, they were happy. And what actually happened was local governments grant these Mudra scheme loans to farmers, in which the farmers take loans for whatever mechanization, automation, etc., whatever stuff. And very softly, the local government started putting a condition that please use controllers manufactured of this manufacturer rather than other controllers, because this manufacturer's controllers are cloud enabled and they enable the government to capture this data to be passed up to be able to determine the subsidy, right? Now, with this, he was able to bypass that distributor, wholesaler, retailer chain to a large extent, yes. But still, as I told you, in the year one, his projections were 1,200 units. He was able to sell barely some 150 units or something like that. And in the second year, another similar figure. So totally, he was not able to sell more than 200 to 300 units, despite doing all this. Now, after this, he took the best decision of his entrepreneurial life, which is the cloud platform was able to capture data only from his controllers. He opened up his cloud platform to competitors' products also, so that data from competitors' products also could be captured on the cloud platform and be provided to the local governments. Now, suddenly, data coming from 200, 300 controllers increased to data coming from thousands of controllers which are already sold in the market by competitors, because they were also IoT enabled, but nobody was capturing data on that cloud. Now, suddenly, this guy became a big darling of local governments because they were able to actually pinpoint the subsidies that could be transmitted to the farmers, right? Now, and obviously local government started so basically data became his business. Now that's the pivot that he came up with because of the constant touch with that ecosystem. All right. Then in 2017, another law was passed that all farmers will be granted insurance, crop insurance. Now there was again a question of how much insurance to be given to each farmer. Basically, the parameter that they froze was, let's look at the fertility quotient of the land to be able to determine how much insurance to be granted to specific farmland, specific pieces of farmland owned by different farmers. What does fertility quotient mean? Fertility quotient means what is the soil moisture content, what is the soil nutrient quality existing there, what is the pH value of the irrigation water that comes in, etc. As 4 or 5 parameters determine the fertility quotient. Now, this fellow had a cloud in place already created. He connected with manufacturers of sensors who were in the space of soil moisture content sensors, soil nutrient quality sensors, pH value sensors, etc., and got them on the cloud, them also on the cloud, and that data also started going to the local government. So created a very scalable, highly scalable structure, which now he's been with the Bihar government. Now he is cultivating the Punjab and Haryana governments, Maharashtra government, etc. And soon probably will become all India. Let's hope that happens. Now, what are the lessons for you, for all of us from here? Let's look at Practo a little later. But what are your lessons? What do we kind of figure out from this particular example? Yeah. Any comments or anything that strikes you? Touch with the ecosystem, modified his idea according to the needs. Yes. Anything else? Pivoted. Now, pivoted means what? Pivoted is a very big word, but finally it is getting the right product market fit, right? I mean, that's what we have to do at all times. And let us understand that unless we do about 15-20 iterations, we are not actually going to get the right product market fit. And we have to be willing to do it. We never get it at the first go. Never happens. So be open to kind of, constantly being in touch with the customer and figuring out what one needs. Now, with this background, let's take the example of Practo, a large company, right? I gave you an example of a small startup growing big. Now, let's take example of a large kind of, today they're large enough. There, I think market values, they say that is about 3,700, 3,800 crores, Practo. But how did Practo start? Practo started as a simple, yeah, I mean, somebody's saying, please permit unmute. Can we do that? The team at BITS, can we unmute them?
Yes, they're unmuting Professor Parma. Yeah.
All of them can be unmuted. Yeah, they can speak. Yeah. Okay, Practo started as a simple, appointment fixing application. What is the, let's look at how they have grown over the years, last 15 years or so. There are two sets of users for Practo. One is the doctors and one is the patients, right? Now, let's look at the doctor side. Practo constantly in touch with doctors, trying to figure out what else can we offer to the doctors. Practo, with their constant touch with doctors, figures out that there is a segment of doctors called dentists. Dentists carry a lot of inventory, that they have to carry a lot of inventory, these grinding burrs and various composite materials, etc. And the dentist himself or herself is unable to manage that inventory. So Practo brings in a simple software patch onto their platform, which helps these guys manage their inventory. Constant touch with doctors, they identify another segment of doctors, which is a doctor who has his or her own private nursing home with maybe 25-30 beds. A lot of inventory has to be carried, and that is again a problem. So they create a slightly more complex inventory management patch and push it there on the same platform. More doctors happy. Doctors being happy, more doctors come into the kind of ambit. More the doctors on the platform of Practo, who gets interested in their platform? Obviously, pharmaceutical companies get interested to push their products digitally to doctors, right? So another revenue stream comes in. That means more and more doctors, because revenues start coming in, more and more doctors also get interested, plus the other benefits that the doctor gets, like inventory management, XYZ, along with appointment fixing, that happens. Now, pharmaceutical companies get more money for Practo. Now, let us look at the patient side. What is the typical transaction happening between a doctor and a patient? We go to a doctor, doctor checks us, writes, maybe do some tests, pathological tests, etc. We go to the local pathologist, get those tests done. Now, Practo identifying this brings in pathological or diagnostic labs also on its platform, closes the loop there, creates one more revenue stream for itself. When we get the pathology reports, we go back to the doctor. Doctor looks at the reports and prescribes us some medicines, which we go to the local chemist and buy from there. Practo brings chemists also on the platform, so that that transaction happens on the platform. Practo has another revenue stream. So constantly, if you notice, Practo is keeping the customer at the center, trying to understand what else can I do. And these small little kind of improvements here and there are creating a huge platform that Practo is today. Now, today they are into the pandemic, just helped them boom. And now they are also into electronic medical records, keeping records for doctors, etc. So they've gotten into that as well. So point is, from a small, silly appointment fixing lab, see where they have come to. I'm told they're about a 3,700 to 3,800 valuation as of now. Soon going for an IPO is what I hear. All right. So from there, let me, if we have time later on, we can see. These are the questions that we need to ask at all times. With who? Who else but the user? Validation has to be with the user at all times. Listen and be open to feedback. Iterate. And the sweet spot is this. Constantly, continuously try to find a sweet spot between desirability, that is, what is the user desiring, what is technically and operationally feasible, and finally, what is financially viable. As long as you are at the sweet spot, you are in business. If you are here, maybe you will be in business for 6 months to a year. If you are here, another maybe 6 months, maybe. But if you are here at all times, that's where one needs to strive to be. And for that, constantly you have to kind of act on these kinds of things. Before I stop, these are some tips or some things that I have practiced and helped gain some success. Cultivate a small but relevant customer base in the beginning. Have close relationships with them, be transparent with them, give them access to your first, second, third, fourth, or whatever versions that you're creating. Be very honest with them, telling them that I am in a trial stage, I am solving a specific problem for you. There might be some bugs in it. Please bear with us. Please give honest feedback. We are there to solve those problems. Be very candid and honest with them. Show or demonstrate to them that you're solving their problems. And mind you, these customers will pay you willingly when they know that you're solving a problem and you're making a genuine attempt to solve that problem. And over the long run, these are the people who will actually be your most reliable sales folks, not directly selling your stuff, but they will be your biggest kind of word of mouth publicity agents, giving you testimonials, recommending you to other customers, etc. So now this small but relevant customer base could be a base of 5 or 100, depending on what kind of a business you are running. If you are a physical product business, a small customer base of maybe 10 people also could be good enough. If in the B2B space, five customers or 10 customers or even lesser in the B2B space. If you are in a B2C space, maybe larger, maybe 50 customers, 100 customers. If you are in the SaaS space, maybe 500 customers could be a small relevant customer base. But cultivate that. Tell them that you're trying out stuff, trying to solve a problem, give us honest feedback, and they will be loyal with you. So this is something which I have done and has been very useful for me. Here is where I will stop, and maybe if you have questions, we can take them. Otherwise, we can close. One more point, one more kind of topic I wanted to take, but I think we don't have time to do that. All right.
Dr. Kaustub, in case you want
Yes.
to take another 10 minutes, we still have time for that.
We do?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
will.
please.
Now, MVP creation is always a challenge. Let me just share with you a very simple framework. Can you see this broad framework in front of you? Yeah, everybody can see this PDF. All right. This is basically, this has about 73 or 74 different attributes. These attributes are actually features that you can add to your product or service. All 73 will not be practical for all products or services. This is a universe of features. You can pick up the 10 most relevant or the 15 most relevant or the 5 most relevant to your product or service and build that into your product. That will help you create your first MVP, take feedback, maybe add some features, with every iteration, or cut some features also with iterations, because basis the customer feedback, you might have to add some features or reduce or eliminate some features. All right. So this is a kind of a broad framework of attributes that a product or a service may have, must have, good to have, etc., etc. And this has been built over the last 20 odd years that I have been into new product development, etc. So if you have a look at it. You can take a picture of this, and if you have any questions, anything is not clear, we can discuss a little bit. I can give you some examples of some features. Have you understood why I'm sharing this with you? Why I'm sharing this framework with you? Am I clear about that? Hello?
So Kaustub is more of a comment.
Yeah.
See, it's like basically when we come up with any idea, normally it's a tendency of all entrepreneurs, they think only from their point of view. They never put themselves in a customer shoes, which you very relevantly highlighted. And another aspect is flexibility. You may start up with some premise like what happened with Instagram. They come up with a various feature, but they end up focusing on a one feature, which is a photo.
Right.
Okay, so say that's the way flexibility is the key for the any entrepreneur, which is require a lot of guts to admit I am a wrong and customer wants something else, and uh,
Yeah.
and adaptability. Sooner you are taking with the customer need, more successful you would be. Slower it will, you may not be in a business also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To the point. Many a time we just get married to the first idea that we come up with, and we don't want to change. Very rightly said, Professor Parmar. Any comments on this? Can you see these features? Am I clear why I am sharing this? Hello? All right. Okay, then if there are no questions, we can pause. Maybe that's my book. If anybody is interested, you can scan the QR code. Thank you very much. All right.
So thank you, Dr. Dhargalkar.
Hey,
So
stop sharing the screen.
yeah. So just last comments. I mean, if there are any pertaining questions, please. I mean, you can just raise your hand and. Okay, we are having a couple of questions, sir.
Okay.
Maybe you can, just take a look at the chat. It is from Shweta Mishra. Sir, how to understand that you need to stop working on that product?
Yeah. Now, how to start. That's where the last slide, if I shared with you, or if you remember the one that I shared with you, have a small customer base who is willing to be with you during your experimental phase. You will get the right signals from them. When to stop, when is the value that those customers are getting out of the new features that you're adding. You will know, first of all, you'll know how to price it, and you'll also know that till now what I've done is enough. Now let me launch it at a larger scale. So that feedback or that small customer base with whom you're working in the beginning, I'm using the word customer because they are not freebies. You're not giving them freebies. You're solving a genuine problem for them, and you are doing your best to solve that problem and other problems that arise. So that will give you an idea when to stop and when to go full scale. Am I making sense here?
Dr. Kaustub, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
So I think during this exercise where entrepreneurs, they have to really go into the market and find out what is the relevant pain point, and based on that they want to develop the product. And sometimes it might be not possible to reach out to each and every customer they're looking for. And one of the strategy they sometimes adopt is to do a survey. Do you suggest survey is one of the good ways to find out this insights of the customer, or one-on-one customer interviews are the best things to do?
Yeah, see, surveys, as in you mean Google Forms and stuff like that?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't have much faith in that because, see, a Google form, first of all, there are some 20, 25 questions in there. Nobody has the patience to go through each of these questions and answer them honestly. We generally have a tendency to tick off, tuck, 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 to finish it off in 2 minutes and go away. I'm not completely invalidating it, but I'm saying there is no option to actual direct observation and interaction with customers. You don't have to do 100 or 500 interactions. Even if 10, 15, 20 close interactions will give you very good insights into the whole customer psyche. That's one point. For checking out whether there is scale in my business or not, maybe Google surveys and stuff like that, Survey Monkey and that kind of stuff. For checking out scale, once you have figured out the qualitative insights from your interviews and observation exercises, that's one thing. Another thing that I have used is to kind of to get to the point quickly, because a lot of times the feeling is that customer interactions and interviews are going to take a long time. Identify the extreme users for a specific product or a service. Extreme users will give you sharp insights into where competitors' products are failing. And that's where you will get to know what are the features that I should focus on. let's take an example, simple example. All of us have played video games, right? Video games, किसी ने नहीं खेला ऐसा कोई होगा नहीं, बराबर? Now, these game creating companies actually monitor how people are playing these games and then focus on the people who play at the extreme edge of that fringe of that capacity of the game. Say, for example, if it's a speed driving game with a speed limit of 200 miles per hour, the video game guys, manufacturers, the creators will identify people who constantly drive at between 190 and 200 miles per hour. And then they will actually incentivize those guys to give them insights of where the game is failing, what else do they want in that game. Now, from there, these guys pick up the features that they introduced in version 3 and version 4 of their products. So, point that I'm trying to make is identify extreme users or extreme situations in which a product or service is being used. That will give you a quick understanding of what features you can add which competitors don't have. Get it? But if you interact or interview a very median segment customer or a user, say somebody who in that speed game, somebody who drives not more than 100 to 120 miles per hour, that person will not be able to give you what are the bugs in the system, and hence will not be able to tell you what else the system should have. Are you getting my point? So if you want to shorten that user surveys, maybe focus on the extreme users in addition to, I'm not saying discount the mean and the median kind of users, but these extreme users will give you a quicker insight.
Just a follow-up question on that. In addition to the extreme customers and users, do you also suggest there should be another separate categories of peoples, and who are these people with whom one should do interviews to find out some insights?
Yeah. I mean, see, your segmentation of the market and focusing on the right segment is the most important thing. Yes. Now, after having done that segmentation, even in those segments, there will be extreme users. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying extreme users is a substitute for your regular interactions. I'm saying in addition to your regular interactions, if you want to have a quicker and a faster way to get there, the extreme users within each segment are the ones that need to be focused on. And also, as a startup, I don't think we should try to satisfy multiple customer segments. Identify some niche, start with that niche to begin with. Because genuinely, we as startups do not have the bandwidth to focus on trying to please everybody. The moment you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So identify a specific customer segment that you are going to focus on, dive deep into their habits, their needs, their pain points, etc. That's my bit.
Thank you.
Dr. Dhargalkar, just one question on that, just to counter that point as well. Of course, the ideation is important, but there has been lately a lot of emphasis on the sustainability aspect of any ideation, looking at the broader aspects, and not only from the initiation origin stage of a product, but also the life cycle of the product and also the end of the product. So how does this parameter fit into the ideation of an MVP? Because largely we need to look at the future generations as well, and how the impact of this is on the nature too. So where do you fit this in the ideation process?
Yeah. See, when I said that, look at the ecosystem in which that user is operating in. Ecosystem also means regulations. Also means the entire kind of cradle to cradle supply chain. I'm not using the word cradle to grave, but cradle to cradle. I mean, how is that product being disposed of? When you actually look at the ecosystem, these points will automatically come up in our observation kind of spectrum right in the beginning, rather than missing them out. First thing that one actually should do is map the ecosystem around that user whom you are targeting. And I'm sure this will come out in that ambit in the beginning itself. And earlier that aspect comes in, you'll be able to build in features to make the product or service sustainable.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dhargalkar. So, all right, guys, I think if we don't have any more questions, so we would like to thank Dr. Dhargalkar for such a engaging and insightful session. And I'm sure your support and your guidance will help us in achieving some of the attributes which you have shared with us. So, really, thank you so much, sir, for that session.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Professor.
Patience. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So with this, guys, let's move on to our next speaker, that is Dr. Shrikant Mutnuri. So just a brief description about him. He's a professor at BITS Pilani Goa campus and founding director of Backtreat Environmental Solutions LLP. Dr. Mutnuri's pioneering work in environmental solutions has led to the development of innovative technologies that addresses critical environmental challenges. He focuses on sustainable development goals related to clean water and sanitation and has collaborated on numerous international projects. His startup, Backtreat Environment Solutions, specializes in wastewater treatment and resource recovery. So over to you, sir. We are looking forward to your session.
So thank you. Hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Let me hide this. So good morning, everyone. I'm Shrikant Mutnuri. So what I'm going to present is about work that we had started and we had developed, and we had carried out research, developed, and then deployed in the field, and also the role of my startup in that and taking it forward as well. So the talk will be more about first about the problem that is there and what's the opportunity that is there, and then what we have done in terms of research, and then the field deployment case. Now, it's more to do with the sustainable development goals. So many might be aware of what are the sustainable development goals means. There are 17 goals. This is on the agenda of the UN, of all signed by all the participating countries of the United Nations. Identifying that there are some critical things that is required to be addressed by 2030, so that there is equality among all the people in terms of the quality of life, and also in protecting the environment as well. So the goals that are listed, there are 17 goals, and under each goal there are many specific tasks which needs to be accomplished by the year 2030. And under the same context, also what we have seen in past years is the more emphasis what we get to hear on Swachh Bharat mission as well. And because I'm going to present about our work, which we started a few years back, and that's related to the Gates Foundation Reinvent the Toilet challenge. It's one of the grand challenges floated by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We were one of the recipients of that award, and the work is based on that. So I'll be the work is more related to all these things, like in terms of sustainable development goal, Swachh Bharat mission, and Reinvent the Toilet grand challenge. So there is problem, like if we go back, it still exists, but then if we go back some years and look at the Swachh Bharat mission or the targets of Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, is to look at, is to solve the end of open defecation by 2017, then adoption of improved hygiene practice by 2020, and solid and liquid waste management by 2022. But then it extended, like by 2019, India claimed that it has solved the problem of open free defecation. But then the focus now is more on the solid and liquid waste management. Right? So on one hand, we have a problem of having poor sanitation, and that's of quite high interest to the country because the children below 5 years die because of poor sanitation, and also our GDP goes down because of having poor sanitation. On one hand, to look at the poor sanitation aspect. On the other hand, India is also considered to be highly water stressed country, and on one so water is becoming scarcer and scarcer, and on the other hand we have limited sewage treatment plants, which are central sewage treatment plants. And if you take about 816 central sewage treatment plants, only 522 are operational, and the rest have one other issue. So because of that, only 30% of our wastewater that is being generated is being treated, and 70% is untreated. Right? So there is a huge gap in that. And the gap is also the opportunity that so we need to have more sewage treatment plants. And it's not just the this government or it didn't start just with Swachh Bharat mission. Before that, also, there were several initiatives to address this issue of sanitation or the wastewater treatment. And in 2014, Swachh Bharat mission started, and by 2019, India declared it to be open defecation free, which means that it has built a number of toilets. But then, where will the waste go? Like, it needs to go somewhere, it needs to be treated, and which is the huge gap, and which has been taken up under the Swachh Bharat Mission 2 to address, to have these treatment systems. Around the same time in 2014, the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge came into India. And there was a big toilet fair in New Delhi where in that fair we were awarded our first project with the Gates Foundation in terms of Reinvent the Toilet Grand Challenge, where we need to demonstrate that a certain treatment system which can meet certain targets. So although the name is Reinvent the Toilet Challenge, we haven't done anything with the toilet as such, but we focus more on the treatment that needs to be done. And looking at all the problems and the need and the government's intention as well, it's not any social service which is being done, but there's a huge market. As you could see, the market size value is about $251 billion in 2024, and that's the world's sewage treatment facility market. And if you look at the India market itself, it's about 1.5 billion USD in 2022, and it's going to grow at a CAGR of about 11%. Okay. So now what's the issue? So there is huge market available, and the other issue is that it can't be central treatment plants. It needs to be decentralized treatment plants, because leaving alone the cost of the treatment plant, there is a cost involved for piping as well. That's about, for 1 kilometer piping, you need about 10 million rupees, right? So, so that's going to be the additional cost. And not only that, going forward, as India is going to be a water stressed country, and the water is the one that's going to take the waste from the point of generation to the point of treatment. And that's going to be limited because India is a water stressed country as well. So the solution for addressing both and to keep it economically viable, one, a minute. Sorry for that. Yeah, so to keep the costs down, to make it a decentralized treatment systems is the solution. And that's what our focus will be in the further talks as well. So to give the background of the rather than the background, what were the objectives posted by the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge, is to focus on removing the harmful pathogens from human waste, So and operate off the grid, which means decentralized systems, off the grid with little electricity to be used, no pipings, and the cost should be less than uh, 0.05 US dollars per user per day. And it should be sustainable, and it should be appealing to everyone, both in developed as well as developing nations. Right. So so these are the targets given, and as part of the project, we should meet those targets so that we have a product in hand. And when it is said remove harmful pathogens, most of our pollution control board norms only targets about or only speaks about the coliforms. But for the RTTC, or the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge project, the focus was more on Helminther's eggs as well. So Helminther's eggs basically it enters the humans through hand to mouth mode due to contamination and improper sanitation. And when it enters, the eggs enter and they basically end up with the intestine, and then the eggs develop into worms, and then they increase in number, and they can lead to death as well. So although this pathogen is not reflected in Pollution Control Board norms of India, ISO 3500, which focuses on non-sewage sanitation, requires Helminther's eggs to be disinfected as well. So our focus was on both the pathogens to be removed and to have a decentralized treatment system and an effective disinfection system as well. So we were awarded the initial project, and our focus in that was to have, because as I said, like only 30% of our wastewater is being treated in centralized treatment plants. The rest of the houses are dependent more on the septic tanks. So we called it as empowered septic tank, where the outlet of the septic tank will be treated in our system. And that's what we initiated, for which we did some lab experiments, then implemented at a single household, then at 100 people equivalent, then into the field, which is what I'm going to talk about now. And I'm going to talk more in context of the TRL levels as well, like the technology readiness levels, starting from 1 to 9, how what we did with reference to this project. Right. So to give, as you could see on the European Space Agency's stuff regarding the TRL levels. Now, TRL 1 to 3 is about proving a certain concept. It's a basic principle. So proving a certain proof of concept that you have in mind with some basic experiments falls under the TRL 1 to 3. And then you test it, and you test it to a certain stage which is to see that it is totally functional, and it is functional in the relevant environment, and it is under your your control. It is functioning in the relevant environment. That falls under TRL 4 to TRL 6. And TRL 7 means the valley of death, which means you will know, like if you put that unit in a field, if it fails to function, then it means that it failed, and it means it went into the valley of death, and then you cannot take further into the market because you put it into the required environment without any interference from your side, and it doesn't succeed or it doesn't work. That means that it failed to enter into the market. And if it succeeds, it goes further and it can be commercialized. So that's the TRL 7, 8, 9. So TRL 7 is basically the valley of death. Now, in our case, as I said, that many of the households are dependent on the septic tank, and the septic tank outlet just goes into the soak pit, which basically contaminates the groundwater. Whereas our interference is either to remove the septic tank to have an independent system, or post the septic tank to have a decentralized treatment system with our disinfection system, which is an electrochemical based system. Right. So I'll start with the basic proof of concept. So I will show what we did in terms of the wetland-based treatment system, and then further on electrochemical. We did some experiments to see the efficiency of these so that we could integrate in the real systems. Now, first, so we focused on a very simple, not so energy consuming system called wetlands, or the vertical flow constructed wetlands. And these, you might have seen marshy, waterlogged areas with plants growing in it. Those are the natural wetlands. And what I'm going to talk about are the constructed wetlands, which basically means we mimic the same what is there in the field, or we mimic the natural wetlands by constructing them. And it depends on the soil, it depends on the microbes, and it depends on the vegetation that the wastewater that it passes into it gets treated. Now, in India, most of the treatment systems, if you take based on wetlands, they are horizontal, which means the waste moves horizontally from one end to the other end of the wetland, and it requires about 5 square meter of area per person per day. And in our case, we focused on the French system, which is the vertical flow constructed wetlands. The flow moves from top to bottom in 2 stages, and in that it gets treated. And why constructed wetlands is your conventional systems are high energy requirement, huge operational cost, expensive. You require skilled labor to handle it, and they're sensitive to water type and requires the sewage pipe connection. So all that can be removed in the case of the constructed wetlands. And when you go for a 2-stage system, they can also handle the sludge. So you need not bother about the sludge to be handled. Raw sewage can be pumped into it for treatment. It will work for 15 to 20 years without any problem. And it's a nature-based system. So as I said, ours is a 2-stage system, and it moves from, the wastewater moves from one stage to the next stage, and then it comes out. And to start with, we have built 600 to 900 liters of wastewater to be treated inside BITS campus. And we implemented a 2-stage system as shown here. The raw sewage water is pumped into the first stage, and it's collected in a collection tank, and from there it's pumped into the second stage. So we could take wastewater from every stage and analyze it to look at whether it is properly treated or not. And this is the treatment plant on campus. And we optimize it in terms of how much of wastewater can be treated in this treatment plant. And we followed all the technical parameters that is required for the pollution control board. And we also optimized the organic loading rate, which means how much of wastewater can be pumped onto this wetland, and then at what concentration of waste it could be pumped, and then how much it gets treated. These are the data that was collected over a period of 2 years. The plant is still working, and so it's now about, I guess, maybe 8-9 years old. So basically, what the experiments that we conducted in that gave us enough information of what is this area that we require per person, and for it to meet a certain discharge standards. So that's about 0.79 square meter per person. And if the footprint based on hydraulic loading, if you say in terms of water that is being pumped, we consider about 150 liters of water to be used per person. And in that case, we brought down the requirement of the wetland area to about 1 square meter per person. As you could see, the wetlands are effective in removing the pollutants, but the coliforms also comes out, and it's which needs to be addressed as well. So we focused on an electrochemical treatment system where we conducted some batch experiments and continuous experiments in the lab. So as I said previously, we were still in the TRL1 to TRL3. We conducted lab scale experiments to prove the concept of electrochemical system so that it can disinfect. We focused on multiple pathogens, including Helminthes eggs. Now here in the electrochemical system, there is an anode and a cathode chamber. So anode was titanium coated with iridium oxide, and cathode is a stainless steel mesh. And in between we had a cation exchange membrane. And we did batch electrolysis and then a continuous electrolysis. And in that, we looked at the coliforms and the Helminthes eggs removal. So batch experiment means we basically keep a buffer in one of, let's say, cathode, and then we pass the wastewater through the anode and apply some current and see the oxidation and the reduction potentials and the movement of the cations towards the cathode, and that changes the pH on the anode side as well as the cathode side. And we did that same with pumping the wastewater through cathode and then buffer in the anode. So when you apply current, when the oxidation takes place, when the cations move from anode through the cation exchange membrane towards the cathode, the pH of anode goes down and the pH of cathode goes up. And this is what we used. And apart from that, because of the coating on the anode, hypochlorite is generated, and we used that for disinfection aspects. We spiked with Helminthes eggs, we spiked with coliforms, we spiked with other bacteria to see the effectiveness and also to optimize how much of current to be used and how long we need to keep the wastewater inside so that we can design an electrochemical reactor for complete disinfection. And we also took a decision to pass the wastewater first through anode and then take it through cathode and out, so that when it is in the acidic condition with hypochlorite, we saw that we could disinfect all the bacteria as well as the Helminthes eggs. And then by taking it through the cathode, the wastewater reaches the optimum pH for it to be discharged as per the Pollution Control Board norms. For the Helminthes experiments, we actually dosed the number of eggs into this electrochemical reactor, and so as to see that whether they are getting disinfected or not. And then we conducted the spiked coliform experiments as well. And why the problem with the Helminthes eggs are that they're highly tough to break, and they're highly protected. They have a chitin layer which protects them from either completely acidic or the alkaline pH, so they don't get killed in that. So it needs a combination of acidic and the hypochlorite disinfection for it to get killed. And we did the spiked experiments both with Helminthes eggs and coliforms. And by running, we optimize the amount of current that is required, at what pH they get killed, and how much charge coulombs per liter is required. And we could see and we could optimize that. And then we did just without having a wetland, if we do only electrochemical based treatment as well, because it's an oxidation process, apart from disinfection, it can also bring down the COD and BOD, the parameters that are required, or removing the waste from the wastewater. As you could see, the influent, if it is, let's say, I'm just don't want to get into too much technical into it. If we say the waste is being measured in terms of a parameter called as COD, it went down from 900 to 264 just by having the electrochemical reactor without wetlands. And this is the picture which shows the Helminthes eggs disinfection. As you could see in B2, the see here, B2, the contents of the egg comes out through one apical pore, and that's how the disinfection can occur. Okay? So, and what we optimize is the number of hours that we need to keep in that environment for about 4 to 6 hours for the helminthus eggs to get disinfected. Okay? On the right side, you could see we worked with the other bacteria to see their disinfection as well. And we could use an electrochemical reactor to disinfect Klebsiella pneumoniae, Bacillus subtilis, Staphylococcus aureus, coliforms, helminthus eggs. And we collected the information of how much time we need to keep, how much current to give, and what coating needs on titanium or the anode, and what type of cathode we need to keep, and what type of exchange membrane we need to keep. So all these were optimized, and we know now that electrochemical reactor can disinfect pathogens completely, including helminthus eggs. And with that information, both on the wetlands for treatment of other characteristics of wastewater and electrochemical reactor for disinfection, we moved into the next TRL levels of 4, 5, 6, where we implemented in a single household our treatment system. Right? So for a single household, with about 4 to 5 people, we made an electrochemical reactor with the following design: that you have total capacity of 117 liters, and in that the top 17 liters is the electrochemical chamber. You have anode on one side, cathode on the other side, and you have the bottom tank with multiple baffles. So the wastewater comes and hits the anode, it gets acidified, hypochlorite is generated, and it goes into the bottom baffled tank. It has a certain retention time, which was optimized. And then it goes out of the cation exchange membrane, and there the pH goes up. Now this is the single household. Like, we built a toilet for 4 to 5 people, and then we integrated a septic tank, and the outlet of the septic tank was put into this is the wetland. The wastewater from the septic tank overflows into this wetland, and from there into a reservoir tank, and from there into an electrochemical reactor for disinfection. So when we build this, we should also understand the requirements of the people. So we built a toilet and connected to the septic tank, and then what we realized was they were also taking bath in that. So the amount of volume of water that was coming in was more. So then we built a bathroom for them separately, and then treated that separately in a grey water system, which I'm not going to focus here. And we followed it up in terms of the treatment quality of this for several months, more than a year, and it's still functioning. And then we looked at all the parameters. As I said, like, the septic tank was connected directly to electrochemical reactor for a few months, so as to see, can we avoid wetland. Rather, we focused initially only on electrochemical reactor, and then it had scaling issues. So we brought in a wetland in between, which did the best in terms of treating all the parameters, and then EC, or the electrochemical reactor, being used for disinfection alone. So when we connected only the septic tank outlet directly to electrochemical reactor, you have very high scaling on the anode, and that will decrease the performance of the system. And that's how we brought in wetland in between, and then we could meet the discharge standards in terms of the different parameters. You could see the quality of the water before and after. So before and after treatment, and the energy consumption was about 16 kilowatts per meter cube, which is on the higher side. Now, we got experience on the single household system, and we increased the capacity of the treatment by implementing a similar treatment system for a community, which is 100 people equivalent. So we installed this for our own students, like for our own students hostel, which was for 100 people equivalent. Now again, we need to modify our electrochemical reactors suiting them, and which we did in terms of having, so you have an anode and cathode sandwiched two times, like you have an anode membrane, cathode cathode, to handle the large volume of water and the big size of the electrochemical reactor. So this how the assembly looks like. So it's a sandwich of anode cation exchange membrane cathode and an anode cation exchange membrane cathode, and then it's bolted outside, and then you have a reservoir tank as well, from which it goes into the electrochemical reactor. So this is the whole setup. Like the building that you see, the room that you see here houses the electrochemical reactor, and opposite to this is the student hostel, from where the toilet water, or the black water as it is called, as well as the gray water are separated, and the black water goes into a tank below this room, right? And there is the septic tank in which the wastewater is collected, and from there the wastewater is pumped into this vertical wetland, which is about 40 square meter in area with 1 meter deep. And from the wetland, the wastewater goes into the electrochemical reactor, which is housed inside the room. And the electrochemical reactor this is the one which is inside the room. And post electrochemical disinfection, it is collected in a collection tank. From there, we take for analysis. At each point, we can take wastewater for analysis. And then it was used for gardening. So this is what the wetland looks like, which has a passive aeration system. So it's not like pumping air into it, but then we have a passive aeration system into it. And it's filled with different types of gravel for it to, for the microbes to grow and the plants to grow on top. And as the plants grow, they increase the porosity of the soil so that more air enters and more microbes, aerobic microbes, can degrade the waste. Right? And again, we monitored this and at the community scale to look at how much treatment it can do. And as I said, all these are under control condition. It is in the exact environment that it is required, but it is still under our control in terms of monitoring the different treatments that is required, and so how we can keep on monitoring and then adjusting any problems that comes. Right? So in the community scale, we could reach over a trial period of initial 60 days. Now it's still working, but initial 60 days, we collected parameters in terms of how much of reduction of different pollution control board parameters occurs. And then we improved it. And then we could see the log reduction of coliforms by 4. And energy requirements were between 11 to 16 kilowatt per meter cube. And the cost, if we see, is about $2.6 per cubic meter of wastewater treated. And in a community treatment system, it's $5 per cubic meter. So you could see the number of users being used, and in that way, it meets the required targets. We published this work as well, and we have the know-how. Now, based on that, we got further funding from Gates Foundation and BIRAG, asking us to go to the field and implement, which means to go to increase the TRL levels, to go and put in the exact environment with minimum interference from our side. So we implemented in in a beach called as Bogmalo, which comes under a panchayat. And what we did is like we built a community scale toilet for them, which had changing room, female toilets, handicap toilet, the electrochemical reactor room, male toilets, male urinals. And then we integrated our vertical flow constructed wetland along with the electrochemical disinfection. So this is the setup. We have some modifications. So we kept for the beach people to have a shower outside itself. And inside the toilets, we kept the different like urinals and toilets and changing rooms. So we learned some part here as well that they wanted shower inside the room. So we converted one toilet into a shower room. And what we also observed is that the requirement of the changing room was also needed for the males. So we kept that as well. So we all modified the usage part. But as I said, in the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge, our focus was more on the treatment system. So as you could see, this is the wetland. So from beach, if you see, you will see the plants. And on the other side, you have the toilets on the roadside. And underneath these toilets, you have the electrochemical in between, you have an electrochemical disinfection room. And underneath, you have the pumps and the storage tanks. So we collected a very good amount of information from operating the field unit. In terms of the power consumption, it's only we modified the way the electrochemical reactor also functioned. Like we used the conductivity of the water that comes itself, and we generated hypochlorite for disinfection. And by changing the way the electrochemical cell reactor works, we changed the amount of treatment time and the amount of cost that is required for power. And this was handed over to the local panchayat, which is called the Bogmalo area, so Bogmalo Panchayat. And the panchayat charges about 10 rupees per user to use the facility. And they have appointed one person at 12,000 per month. And on an average, 100 users per day use it. And what we have seen during the peak tourist season, it goes up to 200 users per day. So the panchayat is generating revenue on it, and then they have enough money for annual maintenance as well. In terms of looking at like annual maintenance for wetlands is not much. To look at any the toilet requirements or anything like that. So they are on the positive income side to manage the whole system. And now Coca-Cola also has come forward to put advertisement banners on that. So that's going to be additional revenue for that. So this is on the higher TRL level in terms of the unit handed over to the local government and then they operating it. So in that way, we reach the higher TRL level as well. And that's how, so that's the unit and that's the minister for Panchayat, so who inaugurated, and then it was over a period of 3 to 4 months, we handed it over to the Panchayat. Now, what we could get information is that like we could meet all the discharge standards as per the Pollution Control Board norms. And if you look at what is excess is the nitrates. And for that, we did further experiments where the details I'm not giving here. But we came up with different constructed wetland modifications which could address the nitrate removal as well. So the basic parameters, as you could see, it's all in green. It means that up to limits. And the nitrate aspect, we could do a different modification of the wetland so that it meets the discharge standards. So patents are filed on that in terms of the modifications that we did, which is also essential to have patents. And so some modifications of the wetland so that it addresses the nitrate removal as well. And one is about having an apart from the wetland, the wastewater will go into an anaerobic reactor with specialized microbes growing on as biofilm on the solid supports for denitrification. And the other modification is one above the other, double stage constructed wetland. Right? So for that as well, we filed the patent. We collected enough data in terms of performance of these modified wetlands, in terms of addressing the nitrates and other parameters, and then we went in for filing the patent. And so around this time, like what we also did is like I found my startup, which is called as the BITS-TEC Environmental Solutions. And we used our initial knowledge of only the not modified constructed wetlands. We used that vertical flow constructed wetlands to implement it at different places. So what, as part of, there is a school complex in Goa called as Kujira School Complex. And there what we did is that we put one wetland from our lab to show to them, because they were going in for an energy intensive treatment system for 6 schools. And we put one treatment plan from our side to show them the parameters, like it will meet the discharge standards and it is cheaper to operate and all that. And based on that, the Goa government gave all us the wastewater treatment plant to be built for all the 6 schools. And then we built it for an apartment complex. As you could see, it's an initially the wastewater comes into a septic tank in any household. We modified that septic tank into an anaerobic reactor. And from there, the wastewater moves into the wetland, and from wetland to an sand filter and activated carbon filter, and then from there into the soak pit. So the treated water going into soak pit will not block the soak pit, and then it's good for the groundwater as well. We did it for now on an experimental basis. We not an experimental basis at the higher TRL level. So we implemented for 1 MLD for an open Nala at Hubli Smart City. And if you compare an 1 MLD, which is 1,000 cubic meters of wastewater treatment, if you compare an energy intensive system like a sequencing batch reactor or an activated sludge system, the cost to implement an vertical flow constructed wetland is half of that. Typical SBR whatever be the cost, it will be half the cost of for a vertical constructed wetland, and operational cost will be 5 times less than in a typical energy intensive system. Now, based on our experience, and then we competed in an accelerated program on nature-based systems announced by WRI, World Resource Institute, and the CityFix Lab. So we got a grant, and we were the winners for the sewage treatment, BITS-TEC Environmental Solutions, and we are going to start a project in Nalgonda to show 20 KLD wastewater treatment using wetlands. So we also did, so in all these cases, we also have got several BIRAC grants in terms of resource recovery, in terms of from the septage. So if you, we got 3 grants from BIRAC in terms of treating the septic tanker contents, where we could demonstrate for handling 1 septic tanker per day, which means about 8 cubic meters of wastewater or the septage being treated every day, wherein we separate the solids and we separate the liquid, and the solids were converted into a manure, and the liquid converted in treated with vertical flow constructed wetlands. The manure generated was, we tested it on agricultural fields in terms of growing chilies, brinjal, paddy, and we proved that they are safe to use. And then we got further grants from BIRAC to increase the capacity to 90 to 120 cubic meters of septage to be treated. That's roughly handling 10 to 15 septic tankers per day. And there we signed an agreement with Bicholi Municipal Council, where the business model was that the septic tankers will come and dump the waste onto our treatment system, for which we charge them 600 rupees per tanker, and 100 rupees goes to the council, and in turn council will give us free land, and the council has one septic tanker with them, and that one septic tanker we will treat it for free. So it's not just the domestic wastewater what we are targeted to treat, but also the septage and also the resource recovery. So resource recovery is essential for sustainable development. And in terms of resource recovery, we recover nutrients, we recover water, and in other, now for example, at the Hubli, we get almost 1,000 cubic meters of treated water per day. And now we are in discussions with them that this water can be transported by tankers with additional treatment system, like a membrane treatment system, that it can be used for building construction, etc., for other uses. And we showed the nutrient recovery as well. As I said about, we call it as terra preta, which is an organic manure. Water you could recover, and of course energy could also be recovered, which we had showed in terms of another project, which I'm not discussing here, which is the biogas production from organic waste and septage. So this is the team, the present one, and then the past team of both BITS as well as my startup part. And what I tried to show you is like how we moved from the basic TRL level to the higher TRL level, so that we are market ready. So thank you. Maybe I'll stop there and then maybe take questions.
This is Shishikant. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this wonderful presentation, and I think this is one of the very good examples of a very simple technology creating a high impact for the community itself. So my question too is, in fact, I would like to have your thoughts around, since a lot of climate change is happening, and I foresee there could be a change of policy in the near future where government may ask individual household to meet their needs through renewable energies, or to, for example, for the water scarcity, they may also might ask to implement such kind of solution at the household. How do you foresee such kind of implementation in near future, and how financially viable it will be for individual households to adopt these technologies?
So in fact, like it is, we have done for single households itself. Not only that, for my own house, I have implemented the same treatment system, and I use the water for gardening around. So the simplest implementation now, I am also discussing with the local panchayat that even in the existing households where it is mandatory to have septic tanks, and the outlet of the septic tank directly goes into the groundwater or directly into the soak pit, which enters into the groundwater. Now we need to bring in just this wetland in between, so that the outlet of the septic tank goes through the wetland and gets treated, and then it goes into the soak pit. So that small modification is required. In fact, we implemented at a couple of houses at single household level, and one more is my own house, as I said. So it's doable, and it's necessary as well, so as to protect the water bodies. And you also minimize, like for example, when you use this water for gardening, you minimize the usage of fresh water as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Dr. Mudnari, one question from my side. Just on the technical aspect, of course, you explained everything, how you are processing different effluents as well. Could you comment on the VOCs which is generated while while it is passing through the wetland, and how are you taking care of that? Because I think it's an open system, right? So
Yeah, well, what is generated? Sorry, VOCs.
VOCs, if any VOCs are being generated.
Yeah, so see, VOCs will not be generated because the water, it's not stagnant on the wetland. It's more, to give you an idea, it's more like a filtration unit. Like you pour water, it just drains down, right? But the design is in such a way that it will retain the pollutants. It's like a filter, so it retains the waste inside it, but it is designed to a certain load that the waste that is trapped inside will be taken away by the microbes. So that's the retention time what it plays. So in that way, it's not, we can do wetlands in different ways. It could be saturated, unsaturated, different types, but it's not going to be stagnant on top to expect about the VOCs.
So guys, the floor is open. You can just type in your questions, or you can also speak out. All right. So I guess if we don't have any further questions, then thank you, Dr. Mutnari, for such an elaborative explanation, and we wish you all the best with your future endeavors, and looking forward to your development as well. So thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shrikant.
Thank you.
Nishant, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Rajneesh. Thank you, Sahil. So I think with this, we have come to the end of the session. And today, as you rightly saw, we covered some major topics from MVP and understanding of different parameters from business point of view. But of course, also we saw some real life scenario, as in with Dr. Mutnari's ideation and how he's advancing his technology. So this gives you, in a nutshell, a basic understanding of the significance of MVPs in any entrepreneurial journey. So I hope with this we have a good understanding, and moving forward, if there is any obstacles, any information you need, please do reach out to our team, and we would definitely try to connect with you with the right individual as well, so that you can reach your end goals. So I think Rajneesh, with this we can officially close the session. So
Sure.
you can add a couple of words as well.
So I would like to thank all the participants who have joined Innovation Series for today's session. In fact, we could do a lot of these kind of activities, and this is a regular series. Apart from that, we have shown you the services that we have from BITS-TEC Series. In case you are looking for any mentoring support or any technologies that you feel that you're looking to implement in your startup companies to start a business, we have a good number of technologies. Please feel free to reach out to BITS Technology Enabling Center, and we would love to explore talking to you and would like to help you all across. With this, I would like to thank everyone and DST for extending this support to BITS Pilani and to help reach out to all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. A good day to all. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.